Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Kristen.
And my name is Katie. And we want to spend a few minutes a day with you walking through the New Testament, one chapter at a time. This year, we will fix our gaze upon Christ so that we may know him, not only with our minds, but with our hearts.
Together, we will learn that who Jesus is changes everything. Welcome back to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Kristen Schmucker, and we are journeying through the New Testament. Today we are wrapping up the book of Philippians, and it has been such a delight to be in this beautiful book with you all. Yesterday we walked through chapter 3, and we learned about how knowing Jesus is our greatest goal in all of life. And today, as we begin chapter 4, Paul is going to start with a therefore, or a so then. And this is a clue to us that everything that Paul is about to say is building on what he has already said in the first part of the letter. In light of everything that he has said, Paul speaks to the church at Philippi as his dearly loved and longed for brothers and sisters. Paul speaks to his fellow family members in the body of Christ. By calling them brothers and sisters, he is reminding them that because we are united to Christ, we are also united to one another. He urges them to stand firm in the Lord. But Paul, in speaking of the church as a family, is not naive to the dysfunction that family can so often bring. He speaks directly to Euodia and Syntyche and encourages them to walk in unity with one another and to agree in the Lord and the things that have been pulling them apart. This highlights for us the importance of unity and reconciliation in the church. Church is hard. There is often hurt involved. Other believers will fail us, and that can be so hard to accept. But the gospel grounds us in hope. As Paul continues, he speaks to the anxieties that we face in the Christian life. As I begin this section, I do want to mention that I will be speaking about the anxiety that is common among all believers. I want to be careful to say that if you think you may be experiencing clinical anxiety, depression, or another mental health struggle, that we encourage you to speak with a doctor, counselor, or therapist who can help walk you through this season. Paul encourages the church to rejoice in the Lord always. This is not self-help or toxic positivity. This isn't about pretending that things are okay. This is, as we mentioned earlier this week, a joy that is rooted not in our circumstances, but in a person. That person is Jesus Christ. He is the one that we are rejoicing in. Our hope comes from Christ in us, and rejoicing is learning to actively set our hope on Jesus and not be weighed down by the voice of the world. We become anxious and run to worry when we are trusting in something other than the Lord. So rejoicing teaches us to hope and trust in him alone. I love the simple phrase here, let your graciousness be known to everyone. This is a sweet reminder to be like Jesus, who pours out grace and gentleness, who describes himself as gentle and lowly. In all things, we remember that the Lord is near. It is his presence that gives us the ability to turn from worry to prayer. In prayer, we can bring our whole heart to the Lord. Instead of worrying about life, we can entrust it to the one who holds our life in his hands. Prayer demonstrates our dependence on the Lord. But the flip side is that a lack of prayer shows that we are living in self-reliance instead of trusting in him. The answer to the weight of life that we feel is Jesus. He is in us and we are in him. And the result of life with Jesus, as Paul points out, is peace. Peace can only come through Jesus. Paul urges us to think on things that are excellent and praiseworthy, and then lists out for us several examples of what these might be. Things that are true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, excellent, and praiseworthy. These beautiful virtues are descriptions of the virtuous one, Jesus himself. We must think on these things, the things that align with who he is. And again, Paul promises that the God of peace will be with us. As Paul thanks the Philippian church for all they have done to generously support him, he also states that he has learned to be content in any circumstance. This contentment includes financial contentment, but it is so much more than that. This is a contentment through the highs and lows of life. This is contentment in knowing that Christ is with us no matter what we face. The promise that we can do all things through Him who strengthens us is not a promise for a winning game of basketball, but the promise that we do not walk through this life alone. No matter what God calls us to do, He will not leave us alone. The promise is Christ in us. Paul ends with the reminder that God supplies our every need in Jesus. We behold Jesus today as the one who is in us and who enables us to stand firm. We see Him as the one in whom we can rejoice, no matter what life brings. We gaze upon Jesus as the one who is full of grace and who comes near to us. We behold Him as the one who hears our prayers and carries our burdens. We see Him as the one who pours out peace and the one who is true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, excellent, and praiseworthy. We behold Him as the one who strengthens us, provides for our needs, and walks with us through every day of our lives.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. Don't forget to check out the show notes for helpful links and resources related to today's episode. And make sure you are following at Daily Grace Podcast on Instagram for more A Year in the Bible content, and at the Daily Grace Co. for all things Bible study resources. We can't wait to study again with you tomorrow. Bye, friends.